Ever wondered how Congress averts a shutdown? Well, this past Thursday, both houses of Congress pulled off something quite extraordinary. In a world often divided by partisan politics, we see a rare moment of unity. The House of Representatives and the Senate, in an act of unanimity, passed a temporary spending measure. This move pushed not one but two funding deadlines further into March, effectively averting a partial shutdown that was scheduled to darken our weekend. This measure is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, it's tailored to the unique needs of different agencies. For some, the measure extends the deadline by 1 week, giving them a breath of relief. For others, it pushes the shutdown date by a full fortnight, moving the doomsday clock to March 22nd. Imagine the relief that must have flooded the hallways of these agencies. The impending shutdown, like a guillotine blade hanging over their heads, was lifted, if only for a short while. But in the world of politics, a week or two can be a lifetime. Yet even in the face of imminent shutdown, there were objections. Some conservatives, ever watchful of the nation's purse strings, demanded spending cuts. Their voices, though loud, were not enough to drown out the collective sigh of relief from their colleagues across the aisle. The measure, despite the dissenting voices, received broad bipartisan support in both chambers. Democrats and Republicans, often at odds, found common ground in the need to keep the machinery of government running. They set aside their differences, their political posturing, their ideological battles, and they voted in favor of the measure. This is the story of how Congress, in the 11th hour, averted a shutdown. It's a story of unity, of compromise, and perhaps of hope. After all, if our elected leaders can come together in the face of a looming crisis, who's to say what else they might achieve? Despite objections from some conservatives demanding spending cuts, the measure received broad bipartisan support in both chambers. This, ladies and gentlemen, is democracy in action. Following the House's earlier approval of the bill, the Senate swiftly took action on Thursday evening. The clock was ticking, the stakes were high, and there wasn't a moment to lose. In an act of unity, the Senate, often notorious for its slow-moving procedures, proved that, when it matters, they can indeed act swiftly. This wasn't just another day at the office. This was a day of critical decision-making, a day where the fate of numerous governmental departments hung in the balance. So, what happened on this crucial Thursday evening? The Senate gave its final approval to the bill. This wasn't just a rubber stamp, it was a resounding yes to moving forward, a clear signal that progress was on the horizon. This final approval wasn't the endgame, though. No, it was merely setting the stage for what comes next, a vote on the first minibus appropriations package next week. The term minibus might sound small, but don't let it fool you. This package is anything but minor. It's a mammoth task, encompassing funding for a broad spectrum of departments, from agriculture to energy, housing and urban development to transportation, veterans affairs to interior, commerce and justice, and let's not forget the Environmental Protection Agency and several other agencies. Each of these departments, vital cogs in the machinery of government, were waiting in the wings, their future funding on the line. This swift action by the Senate, this final approval of the bill, it's more than just a procedural step, it's a lifeline. Without this revised timeline, their funding would have expired on March 8th. Imagine the chaos, the disruption, the uncertainty. But thanks to the swift action of the Senate, that's a scenario we won't have to face, at least not for now. Congressional leaders established the current version of the two-tiered continuing resolution along with two minibus spending bills. As the clock ticks, the strategy of the two-tiered continuing resolution takes center stage. Picture this like a two-step dance, with each step representing a different level of funding extension. The first step extends the budget cessation deadline for certain agencies by 1 week, while the second step pushes the shutdown date for others a further 2 weeks to March 22nd. This two-step approach not only averted the looming shutdown, but also bought crucial time for our lawmakers to negotiate and finalize spending measures. Now, let's shift our focus to the minibus spending bills. In contrast to an omnibus bill, which is a single, all-encompassing spending bill, the minibus bills are smaller appropriations packages. The first of these minibuses is expected to roll out next week, encompassing funding for a diverse range of departments, including agriculture, energy, housing and urban development, transportation, veterans affairs, interior, commerce and justice, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency and several other agencies. Negotiations for the final provisions of the second minibus are still ongoing. This second minibus is set to fund the remainder of the government, essentially covering the agencies not included in the first package. The challenge here lies in reaching a bipartisan agreement on the allocation and utilization of funds. Remember, the minibus strategy isn't just about preventing a shutdown, it's about ensuring the smooth functioning of our government and its departments. And so, the wheels of democracy continue to turn, albeit slowly at times. The journey is far from over, with lawmakers having an estimated 3 weeks to prevent a partial government shutdown. These weeks will be filled with negotiations, compromises, and hopefully, progress. The two-tiered continuing resolution and the minibus strategy are not just clever tactical maneuvers, they are reflections of our democracy's ability to adapt and overcome challenges. Lawmakers now have approximately 3 weeks to prevent a partial shutdown. Let's hope these weeks bring forth the much-needed resolution, ensuring the wheels of government continue to turn smoothly. Initially, there was hope to finalize the text last weekend for a vote on full-year funding bills this week, but talks stalled, causing a delay. It's a familiar dance in the world of politics, isn't it? The best-laid plans often find themselves scuppered by unforeseen obstacles or disagreements. In this case, the hitch in the step was a pause in the conversation, a hiatus in the dialogue that put the entire process on hold. But let's be clear here, the delay was not a full stop. It was more of a comma, a brief pause in the ongoing narrative of democratic governance. As the old adage goes, the show must go on. And so it did. Despite the brief interlude, the wheels of democracy started turning again. The process regained momentum following discussions between leaders of both parties and President Biden. In a testament to political pragmatism, they all agreed on a strategy to avoid a shutdown. Now, that's not to say it was a walk in the park. Far from it. The strategy was hard-fought, born out of necessity rather than choice. It was a practical solution to a complex problem, but it was a solution nonetheless. So, what does this tell us about the nature of politics? Well, for one, it underscores the importance of dialogue and negotiation. It highlights the need for compromise and consensus, even in the face of disagreements. It's a reminder that, at the end of the day, the goal is to keep the wheels of government moving, to ensure that the needs of the people are met, come what may. The agreement was commended on Thursday, despite acknowledging the challenging journey to reach this point. The road to consensus is rarely smooth or straightforward. It's often fraught with bumps and detours. But despite the challenges, despite the delays, the goal remains the same: to serve the people, to keep the government functioning, to move forward together. And that, my friends, is the beauty of democracy. It's a dance, a delicate balance of push and pull, delay and momentum. It's a dance we all partake in, whether we realize it or not. House Speaker Mike Johnson, Arlo, described the appropriations process as ugly, emphasizing the inherent complexities of democracy. This isn't an understatement. The process of allocating funds to various sectors of government is a convoluted task, a dance of negotiation, compromise, and sometimes disappointment. It's a testament to how democracy, for all its virtues, can be a messy affair. Let's delve a little deeper. The appropriations process traditionally relied on an omnibus bill, a single legislative package that encompassed all spending measures. However, this year, Congress chose a different path. They implemented a two-tiered continuing resolution system, a novel approach that allowed different agencies' funding to expire at different times. This system, although complex, carried a strategic advantage. It provided Congress with the flexibility to manage the imminent funding deadlines more effectively, enabling them to focus on different sectors in turn rather than juggling all at once. This approach was not without its critics, but it demonstrated a willingness to innovate within the confines of legislative bureaucracy. The two-tiered CR system also paved the way for the consideration of two minibus packages. These are smaller, more manageable legislative packages that encompass specific departmental funding measures. The shift from a single omnibus bill to two minibus packages was significant. It marked a departure from the traditional approach, signalling a potential new direction for future appropriations. The first minibus package, set to fund various departments including agriculture, energy and veterans affairs amongst others, is currently under review. The second minibus, still in the negotiation phase, will fund the remainder of the government. This staggered approach provides lawmakers with the opportunity to scrutinize and debate each package in greater detail. The path forward is daunting. The journey to prevent a partial shutdown and to establish spending levels for fiscal 2024 is a challenging one. However, it is a necessary process, a testament to the checks and balances that underpin our democracy. Colleagues will now have 72 hours to review the bill before voting, marking another step in the intricate dance of democracy.